guys, today we're going to go over interviewing skills. I'm a little excited about it because usually when I create an engagement and it only takes me like a couple of hours, usually they're really good. I know that was the case with the role of emotional intelligence. And so we're gonna jump right in as far as when it comes to interviewing skills. So this is not gonna be like the basic interview skills where somebody's just essentially talking to you. It's gonna be a little bit more interactive. So I'm gonna ask you guys to answer some of the questions that are at the end that are kind of a little bit of a quiz. But the little bit of a quiz is really to teach you how to also utilize the job description on your own. Okay. So, without further ado, I'm going to go into the session wrap up. Now, of course, today we're working with effective interviewing skills. I'm actually presenting different ways in which you can actually stay engaged with the scholarship program, which is the DSU CAST 1890 scholarship program, and or the College of, well, the DSU CAST Office of Student Engagement. And these are the actual ways with the various platforms, and definitely by following. Of course, if you guys could stay muted, I appreciate it, unless you guys are coming on to speak, and or if I call on you just to pick your brain. I know everybody here is highly intelligent. So, like I said, these are different things that I've learned throughout my career and that I'm definitely giving to you guys. So, also, please be mindful that there are going to be some examples that you're going to see, and you might end up feeling like, hey, that's too extensive. But at the end of the day, is actually where you should be heading towards, right? So we've already developed your resume, we've already developed your LinkedIn. So if we're still moving in ahead in the sense of, hey, gainful employment and or for graduate school, some of the information here, and not some of it, all of it is important. The next student engagement forum is this coming Thursday, November 3rd, from 11 to 12. It's an excellent opportunity. I've been working hard with FMC to bring them here for you guys to engage with them. Of course, they're going to talk about opportunities with their company, internship employment, what it is that they actually do. Their background, of course, is all STEM. And so they're also bringing different guest speakers. So I really encourage you guys to definitely show up because it can be across disciplines, interdisciplinary. Okay. The drawing winner, of course, for the last session was Maritza Cruz Smart, and you've already come by to pick that up from the Eurofin Scientific. Of course, the scholarship closes on November 11th, which is a Friday. And these are also the various applicable majors. If you guys that are scholars know somebody that might be interested, and they might think, oh, it's just agriculture. No, we've taken on 5 additional majors this semester. Of course, you guys can screenshot this. It's the QR code because I'm not 100% sure that I'm gonna run over, but just in case I do. But this is the QR code. If you are coming to for a class and you need your attendance captured, you can definitely utilize that, as well as it adds you to the $10 drawing for the Amazon gift card. Let's see. And this is also the survey link, which I usually add towards the end. Of course, please be mindful that the survey is only open from 11:50 to 12:30 p.m. Once it's closed, it is actually closed. If you go before 11:50, this is the message that you'll get. And if you go after 12:30, this is also the message that you'll get. So let me go right into actually, I can come back to that. All right. And we'll go right into interviewing skills. So my question to you guys real quick, and I just need 1 or 2 people to just answer. One, what do you feel like makes a successful interview for you, for you specifically? Elijah, can you tell me one?
By keeping the person that's interviewing you engaged with what you're saying.
Okay. Uh, Also, Anne, what do you feel like are keys to a successful interview?
I would say like if it's more of like an actual conversation with the interviewer, like you're really establishing a relationship with them within that time of your interview, and if you can really get a foundation through the form of a conversation, I feel like that's pretty successful.
Cool. Um, I'll just one thing I will say, I think why I've become pretty effective at doing this is because I've always been open and honest with students about also my journey when it comes to professional development, right? So there's been plenty of interviews. One of my mentees, Milena, couldn't believe it, but there's been plenty of interviews that I've completely bombed and just walked away knowing it was not gonna go in my favor. But the number one thing, what do you guys think are some other, or what do you think are some reasons why an individual might bomb an interview? Lanasia?
You said Malaysia, right?
Lanasia? I think there's a Lanasia. Okay, Alasia, what do you think?
I think not dressing professionally as well as like using slang words could be very, you know, deal breaker.
Okay. Zakila said lack of confidence. And these are really some good examples. One of the things that I've noticed with jobs that I always got offers from versus jobs that I bombed, I really wanted the job. For instance, one of the first jobs that I ever, it was a job at Iowa State University. It was director of like talent search and trio. And I was selected. It was the first interview I'd ever done via Zoom, and it happened just when the pandemic started. And it was a horrible interview. I was so embarrassed that when I saw Thelma Harding at ARD this past April, it's been 2 years later. I had to apologize to her because I was just like, I had to just be open and honest with her. And she actually said that I wasn't as bad as I seemed to have been. It just was more of a lack of having experience with grants. So some things that definitely get in the way of effectively interviewing definitely deals with being nervous or that anxiety before, during, or after the interview, right? And so what makes you most nervous or creates anxiety? If I can just get one person. Mackenzie, is that you? No, that's not Mackenzie.
Not being prepared.
Okay, so not being prepared, and that's pretty much it. Not being prepared. What are some strategies or techniques to alleviate the pressures associated with interviewing?
Maybe practicing.
Okay, so practicing is definitely one. Being prepared is definitely another one. Has anybody ever utilized envisioning or visualization? Seeing yourself there beforehand, as far as poise, as far as decorum, as far as word usage, things of that nature. So envisioning also helps, but we're going to go into some of the tips. But more specifically, what are interviewing skills? Interviewing skills are the set of skills that help you highlight your best hiring features in every aspect the interviewer is paying attention to. And I think Ann touched on this earlier. During the interview, the interviewer will pay attention to more than what your answers are to each question. And they will also be looking for how comfortable and confident you are, how well you communicate, what your body language is saying, how you portray yourself, and how you will fit into their work environment. One thing that I always tell students, sometimes when you're asked to do more on the job, you might think as though, you're not getting paid for it or this, that, and the third, but you're also getting the opportunity to actually um, enhance your skill sets, right? As well as being able to be in an interview and being able to recall exactly what it is that you've done and how you were able to create an impact. So this whole body language piece I'm getting at is people know when you're lying to them. So sometimes when you have to go the extra mile to work outside of what your current job description is, it really behooves you to actually do that. There was another point I was going to make, but I can wait. Examples of interviewing skills, of course, are confidence. What's really important here, who just came in? Eurofin Scientific just came in. And I usually do a really good job of asking questions on behalf of students. Because those are the questions that you guys end up asking me. So, I think one of the questions I'd asked or a student had asked was, what's the best way or what's the lack of, what are some things that you see missing from students that can deter their interviewing? And the number one thing that they said was confidence, having confidence in what you've done, confidence in what you can do, and just your confidence as far as your presence. Something else that I think can really help when it comes to alleviating anxiety and pressure and things of that nature are really to are really to classify your past wins, right? So if you know that there's been times in which you have actually succeeded in an interview. And also, you guys are students. So when we're talking about interviewing, we're talking about, hey, it could be a job across the street in the mall. It could be a job that's dealing with being a student worker on campus. There's various forms of interviews that you guys will definitely encounter while you're still in college. But some things that are extremely important, of course, are confidence, time management, the ability to prepare and organize your time to work efficiently and productively. Nonverbal communication. Nonverbal communication is what your body language tells somebody during a conversation. Nonverbal communication includes eye contact, posture, facial expressions, and gestures. And then verbal communication. Verbal communication includes the pitch and tone of your voice, speaking clearly and concisely, being honest and polite, and using active listening to respond appropriately. Has anybody ever run into somebody that they're literally not listening to what you're saying, or if they had listened to what you're saying, they would have heard their answer already? Those types of things are extremely important. There's actually a really good podcast about active listening. The lady is actually on my LinkedIn, but I learned so much about that. That active listening is extremely important. Um, and then also being comfortable in the way that you use your voice. I know I worked with a student recently that was doing a competition, and I had to give constructive feedback as far as inflection of your voice, tone of your voice, should you be excited, things of that nature. So please be mindful of that as well. The Holy Grail, this book I love because I was with one of my alums, Terica Jackson. Her aunt lives in Philadelphia. She used to work for Merck, and now she's a nurse, a traveling nurse. And so we were riding one day and she said, Twin, Aunt Lil has never, every job interview she's ever been on, she was offered the job. So I kind of looked at her aunt kind of crazy because I was just like, at that time she was in her late 40s. So I kind of felt like that was unheard of. But she had said that, yeah, she said when she was at Penn State, she took a class and this is actually the book that they used. So now to this day, this is really what I go by. It helps you with everything from how to craft a resume, cover letter, to understanding why things are done before, during, and after an interview, actual interview questions that also give you responses. So I live by this, by this, not document, but by this book. And I really encourage you to pick it up. Of course, you can get it electronically. I think it can't be any more than $20. So different tips to improving interview skills. Know how to use the job description, which we're going to go over. That's pretty much what I live by. Of course, you're going to want to research the company. To easily do that, you can always go to that about the company on their webpage, and or like I taught you guys when it comes to the LinkedIn. If you are interested or if you end up liking that company, as you consistently log in, you're going to always see information about that company. And so you want more enhanced conversation than just what they're about because they already know what they're about. If you can talk about different projects that they're doing, different things that failed, different things that they're looking at doing in the future, that's going to keep ongoing interest and conversation with who is actually interviewing you because it shows your strong interest. You want to review your resume. I usually have to do this before an interview because I have to remember that it's the resume that got me here, right? And then on top of that, it's something that has placed me at the table to have a conversation. But when you're reviewing your resume, you're able to also think back and remember different situations and different accomplishments that you've had that they've seen also, right? So if they've seen these things and it's piqued their interest, clearly they want you to expound on these different resume topics as far as your performance. Prepare your clothing in advance. I think and the more and more you interview, you'll learn and you'll know why that's important because that morning of, you think that you have time, you want to get in a workout, you want to do this, you want to do that. And also a really good tip that I learned, and I didn't even realize like that it was a good tip. But usually in the morning I'll run 3 to 4 miles, and I was actually meeting with BGC. Her name was Shayna, but I had just I'd run and I ran even faster because I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna miss this meeting. And then as soon as I started working with her, like my brain just started firing off like anything that came at me, answers left and right. So if you can put in some type of exercise prior, I highly, highly, highly encourage you to because when you get those endorphins going and you're excited, it's gonna come completely out. Um, Also practice for the interview. One thing that I'm gonna show you are ways in which that you can identify interviewing questions so that you can actually practice responses going forward. 10 tips for improving interviewing skills. Practice for the interview, of course. I don't know why that's up there again. Prepare questions for the interviewer. And I do have an example. Perform informational interview. And essentially, an informational interview allows you to expand your professional network and gather valuable insight about a specific company's culture or industry tips that can help you stand out as a better candidate during a job interview. So, I think one thing that they had said is that you can actually connect with somebody at that organization via social media. Why might there be one reason that you might not want to do an informational interview? If I can just get one person so I don't feel like I'm alone. Why might you not want to do an information interview? Amber Fitch?
Um, is the information interview, is that like with your social media or just like?
So the information interview is really you're going to connect to somebody at the company and then interview them about the company, what their experience is like, what does a day look like, things of that nature. What would be one reason why you don't want to do that?
Um, Probably because you're not really there for them. They're there to get to know you. Maybe possibly. I'm not sure.
That's no worries. Really, the reason why I would stay away from it is because what if this individual is biased or discriminatory on some level? You know what I mean? So, and that can come out in just um, the conversation that you're having, and information that they have. And they could always just say to their manager, maybe it's the team that, maybe the position's on their actual team and they don't really care to want to work with you. They can always just say, put in a bad word about you or your candidacy and you not even be chosen for an actual interview. So I would never do that, but that's definitely something that was one of the tips. You want to be observant and listen closely to the interviewer, know how to respond when you need time to think, be polite to everyone that you actually meet because they're going to all be your colleagues potentially. And these are the the various resources to improve your interviewing skills. on campus, they still have handshake, but they're also moving towards simplicity. And the simplicity, every student has access to it through the Office of Career Services. So you're able to use like artificial intelligence as a mock interviewer. Mock interviews with peers, staff, and family. One gentleman on TikTok, I just happened to be on Yahoo and he went viral and they had a whole write up about him. But he actually came out of college and his first job that he made sure he got was in human resources and he learned everything behind the scenes. His name is Miles Made It. And when I say he walks you through everything, he's actually the individual that taught me that it is legal for you to ask, for more time as far as a question that you've been asked, if you do need more time to think about it. Consistently interview, whether it's going to be fraternities, sororities, student organization leadership posts on campus, student worker positions, employment/internship posts outside of the institution as well. And last, of course, study individuals that are great interviewers or interviewees. The internet is a beautiful thing. So if you go to YouTube and you put in different keywords, really to be able to get the style that you want, hence the style that you want. Every style is not going to work for everybody. So there are going to be things that are going to be attractive to you. And that's really what matters most because if you're mostly interested in it, that's usually what you're going to also implement for yourself. So definitely study interviewers as well as interviewees. The meat and potatoes. Um, and of course, this is essentially the job description. The job description is essentially everything because the job description provides valuable information about the types of skills and characteristics the employer is looking for in a qualified candidate. I just need 1 second. All right. So it also tells you the duties and responsibilities of the position. You can use this information to prepare mock interview questions that are geared towards the skills and experiences the employer is actually looking for. And so this all goes back to finding ways in which you can be most comfortable through preparation. And you can also use it as a checklist to think about specific experiences and examples in your answers. So building interview questions from the job description. Uh, I'm not gonna lie, you guys. Things got hectic. It was homecoming weekend, and so I didn't have enough time to prepare for this. So yesterday I put this together, and I decided that I'm gonna probably have to end up using myself and my information. Um, so one opportunity that I did have, I'm gonna stop. Actually, it is the next slide. One opportunity that I did have in 2020 was actually interviewing with Harvard. Clearly, I'm at Dell State, which I love. So I did not get the position, but to be one of three, I think was exciting because I didn't know anybody that worked at Harvard and I didn't know anybody that's ever interviewed. So I didn't have any go-tos when I created my portfolio as well as my questions. But through the job description and then also from my professional experience working in higher education, I kind of knew already the different entities that I would actually be interviewing with. For instance, students, as far as graduate students, I pretty much know how they function. When it comes to faculty, I definitely know how they function. So I was able to create these different questions. Um, and then furthermore, what I loved is the simple fact that I really didn't take into account that I could work in diversity, equity, and inclusion. Just being honest with you, because um, I know that in my job that I'm helping to create diversity in different workforces, but I don't know. And the pandemic had just hit, so I was just applying to jobs, And so these are the different questions that I came up with. Of course, at the end of every interview, you need between 3 to 4 questions. Really, they should be thought provoking, and they should also give you the opportunity, and also them the opportunity to really expound on the conversation, because that's pretty much what you want, to still keep their attention so that anything else that you need to showcase, you can actually showcase. So I think for the first two, I had an interview on the first day. My process was so long, it was from October to December 18th. And so with all of that time came a lot of preparation. Like I said, I didn't have anybody that I could really gauge. And so I just read everything. I read practice theory with DEI. I read about my student could have been boss. I read everything about DEI that had been done at Harvard. But these were the different questions. And so even at, this is at a little bit more of an advanced level, but these are also examples that you can utilize at your level and look towards actually growing to, um, you know, in your entry level position, and or if you have to go through that whole interview process, which you vets are going to have to do, usually the October of your senior year with the vet schooling of your choice. So this is also why job descriptions are so important. One method that I use, there's a couple of them, but I don't know, this one seems tried and true, is the STAR method, where you're going to actually find a situation, you're going to use a task, you're going to use the action in which you took, and the results that you actually had from it. Uh, does anybody have, and I've seen so many of your resumes, um, who have I not called on? Jasmine Gale. I don't, yeah,
Yeah.
we did your resume last year. Do you have, actually, you know what? How about you do your research right now? Because we just did that the other day. Your research as far as the situation, the task that you're doing, the action that you're doing, and the hopeful result, because you haven't gotten to your result yet.
Oh wow. Okay. The situation is the kids on the farm, which are goats, they have parasites, and they're trying to see if they reduce the amount of treatment, which is expensive. Will it still be effective in treating them so they don't have to spend all that money on the treatment? The task we're doing is collecting the fecal samples from the farm and doing egg counts of the parasites. And the action, what was the action again?
Yep. So the action that you're doing is essentially, what are you gonna do when you after you collect them?
Oh, after collecting is doing the egg counts under a
Okay.
microscope. See how many.
And, and then hopefully your result, which you
So
haven't gotten yet, would be what?
reduction in parasites. Hopefully, yeah.
Yep. So essentially, Jasmine just did a STAR method example for experiential learning, where she's actually working in Dr. Kwame Matthews' laboratory right now. So, of course, that is important and impactful for when she actually does go off to graduate school. She'll be able to effectively talk about that research through STAR. I can give another example real quick, and then we'll move into what we're going to move into, since Jasmine did exponential learning. I can do employment. When we talk about the USDA 1890 Scholars Program, right? Part of what my job has been to do has been to build a retention piece, as well as initiatives and programs that expose the scholar to the agricultural workforce, in different concentrations, whether it's computer science, IT, all of these areas, the USDA needs employees for. So the situation, build a retention program slash initiatives and programs that expose the students. The task was to literally build the programs and initiatives. The action is definitely doing what I'm doing right now in empowering engagement. And the result would be like last year, 65% of scholars were placed in internships in the field of their study during summer 2022. Everybody got the understanding about STAR? Jayla Davis, you got it? Okay. So back to the job description. And this one's not really that it's it's a lot of wording, right? But I highlighted what really matters most. In this job, it's a job for with the federal government. And these three things are really what's going to drive what either your portfolio could look like, what your resume might need to be redone as, and or those interviewing questions or what to expect when you are interviewed. Program management, customer service, and outreach and education. And then this is the actual job description. And so these are the actual duties. And what we're going to do next is what I had said as far as um, those five questions, right? So we're going to look at the STAR method and we are going to take each, not every one of these duties. We don't have enough time, but we're going to take one of the duties, right? And we're going to match it specifically to something off of a resume. So we want to basically assess these duties against the transferable skills that we'll find in a resume. Everybody got me? Yes or no? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So the first one, which, if any, work experiences match the job description best to expound upon in an interview using the STAR method? And like I said, that's the whole key is being able to talk about your experience in a sense that you're able to express who you are, you're able to make whoever's interviewing you more comfortable, you're able to use those nonverbal communication skills as well as verbal communication skills while exuding confidence. All right, so this is one of the duties that was on the last page. And here they want the successful candidate to use his knowledge of available USDA programs and communicates that knowledge to local farmers and ranchers, socially disadvantaged, and veteran farmers and ranchers and other USDA stakeholders. So some of the keys are, of course, communication. You definitely need your knowledge base, who you are actually delivering your information to, as well as anybody else, including these farmers, ranchers, veteran farmers, ranchers, and socially disadvantaged. So, which one would be the best answer? And Amari, once you're done reviewing them, could you tell me one of them or which one would be the best answer? And these are all from an actual resume. And Amari, what do you think?
Would it be A?
No. Does somebody else want to take a stab at it?
I could go.
Okay.
I said C.
Yes.
I also said C.
Yep, it actually is C because here you're showing that you're doing outreach, right? And the and here you're essentially doing outreach, and here you're essentially doing outreach. And you also have different entities that you're doing outreach with, whether it's going to be the middle schools, high schools, colleges. So this is an excellent example of transferable skills from one resume to an actual new job. All right, and so we have the same question. And of course, we want to keep in mind that we're going to use the STAR method and the one that you can best use to talk about. Okay, so the other duty identifies and facilitates opportunities that will enhance greater advocacy and outreach between USDA stakeholders and USDA agencies, mission areas, and offices. You have collegiate teaching experience in marketing agricultural products, introduction to algebra, and university seminar. Develop and maintain positive relationships with all stakeholders, faculty members, staff, teachers, administrators, alumni, and other invested in the college. Maintain confidentiality and compliance with FERPA, or promoted and represented the university at public relations events, promotional opportunities, marketing campaigns, business and committee meetings, or B and D. And so here, essentially, we're doing with outreach again, right? Okay. Actually, yeah, Victoria Diaz. Yes, it is E. It's actually B and D because you're essentially doing the same as far as outreach. And yeah. Here, assist the program lead for farming opportunities, training, and outreach with the distribution of information and materials to existing and potential award recipients. So A, we could defuse and de-escalate upset passengers and report disruptive passengers. We could conceptualize, develop, implement, and update orientation for full partial scholars, matriculation into the scholarship program. We could develop marketing materials and ongoing promotion of the scholarship program locally, statewide, and nationally through school districts and public-private organizations. We can demonstrate working knowledge of growth and development as it relates to pediatric and adolescent populations, or none of the above. Okay, Elijah says C. Anybody else? Okay, Paola says C. Kanisha, C. And actually, that is the answer, is C. By developing marketing materials and ongoing promotion of the scholarship program. Here, they like for the participants in events, including open houses and career fairs at assigned universities and neighboring minority serving institutions across the state. And these I'm not going to read because my throat and mouth are so dry. Okay, Amber says A. Michelle Coleman says A. Paola, A. Yes, and essentially it is A. I think that open house, uh, yeah, that open house definitely pops out at you. And this is the last one. This successful candidate collaborates with the youth organization coordinator on developing partnerships with youth serving organizations and K-12 schools to provide access to work-based learning opportunities aimed at improving high school and collegiate graduation rates. It's not E. Yeah, so it actually is B because I couldn't remember it. I had to read them all. It actually is B. Provide coordination and support in all areas related to student engagement of CAS majors. And essentially, it is B because of this retention and graduation piece. At first, I thought it was D, but this is just access, getting into higher education. And then building a portfolio from the job description. And essentially, where is it? Where is it? And okay, so essentially, the other good part about that whole job description piece, and you guys did really good with transferring the transferable skills from one to the other, but you can actually build your own portfolio. So, like I said, you guys, I had what from October to December, so I had plenty of time to build. But essentially, what I wanted to show the employer that in every area that they're asking for somebody to solve problems, that I actually could solve problems. And so this essentially goes into like strategies to reduce, neutralize implicit bias. Like I said, the job was essentially dealing with diversity, equity, and inclusion. Oh, this was the worst. Building a different diagram when it came to what they were asking for. Oops. And then, of course, these would actually be in your job description of what they want you to, yeah, different examples. Diversity recruitment framework, which was just the previous slide. And then, of course, showing what I had done in the past. That also resembles it. So I'm not going to go too much into this, but I am going to ask, since we're coming up on 11:45, does anybody have any questions for me pertaining to interviewing skills or any feedback that you like to give from your experiences that your colleagues might really value? None. You guys are just ready for the semester to be over. I mean, I really don't blame you. Has it been a
Wait,
long semester? Imani
I
shake.
was going.
Okay, you about to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say. I don't know if you mentioned this before, but you said that you were gonna bring up some of like the interview questions that we could ask some of the interview people. Could you like say some of them again, or like examples of things that we could say? Well, ask
Yeah,
the.
I had put them on the I had put them on the screen. You want me to pull them back up?
Yes, please.
Oh,
Yeah, thank you.
no problem. One that I think is really good that you want to, one that just became really legal that I read about is you are able to ask them in what areas of my candidacy do you find are either weak or that you might have an issue with. Another question that I think is really, really important is to sometimes ask about the actual culture and or the environment of the company because and or also the graduate school because if you're not comfortable there then who how productive are you essentially going to be especially if you have choices with another, especially if you have choices with another uh, organization. So let's see. Some of them were, some of these are essentially geared towards the job description. So they at Harvard they wanted somebody that had a knowing understanding about HBCUs and bringing in more HBCUs for partnerships. But this is one that's general. What are the major projects of the first 6 months? And of course, you want to ask that because you want to hit the ground running. And as far as your expectations for when you start, what will you want me to have achieved after 90 days? That's important because usually um, a job's probationary period is the first 90 days. Um, those are specific to the job. This one's not bad. What functions do you provide in making the assistant director complete their duties and responsibilities? What characteristics and qualities would you expect from a colleague in this position? That's important. What is your perspective on diversity and its relation to the mission and vision for this position? And also, some of these aren't bad questions when it does come to diversity, um, especially if you are a minority going into an organization or a company. You do want there to be some type of reflection of yourself at your entry level as well as all the way up to C-suite. Are internships good to put on resumes? Of course. Internships are so important to put on resumes, and it's important that you're doing resumes for the simple fact that an employer is going to look at you and say, "Hey, we don't have to train them to do as much," or not. Let me redact that. We don't have to pay as much to train this employee because they're coming with the right experience, and or they know so much about the job um, that you're going to be more excited about it. You're going to have more confidence about it because you've pretty much already done it. And with internships, you've already weeded out what you do and what you don't want, or what you do want to do and what you don't want to do. So please make sure that you are adding your internships to your resume and making sure that you are also capturing the best picture of what you've done with that internship, not just nebulous stuff that you might find in the job description of the internship. No, definitely make it your own. Uh, what are some barriers? That one was, what are expectations? That one's good. What are your expectations of the successful candidate that fills the position as well? I mean, as you will be working hand in hand. And those things consider around character, work ethic, personality, professional experience. If you are the type of person that is not that that's not really big on teamwork, I'm laughing because in my doctoral program, I was one of those ones I didn't want to work with people. I was the type that if I'm gonna go down, I'm gonna go down because it's me that went down, not because of somebody else. But that's not necessarily true in employment. In employment, they want to see complete collaboration and teamwork. And usually in the employment area, I love to work in the team groups because our jobs are at risk and we're motivated by making the money that we need to make to survive. So that's totally different than an academic setting where somebody can just slack and use an excuse because they're not pulling their weight. I think, Michelle, you had a question. Let me see. Do we put our internships on the job experience part of our resume? Yes. You can put it there, or you can create its own little section afterwards. Like I think it might be like above like accomplishments and skills. If you do want to section that off to where you could have internships slash experiential learning that you might have had, that's also a good area that you can do that too. Or If you like, you can put it in your work experience, and then just on the outside, like you had the name, and then here in brackets, it could just say internship or summer 2022 internship. What else besides our resume should we bring to our interview? So what I normally do, where is it? I don't even think I have one that's right here at my disposal. But you know those portfolios that are like leather, they're about this big. I always have a black or blue pen. I always have business cards. I always have the job description in my resume inside the little billfold. And I always have my questions written out, those 3 to 4 questions. And it speaks volumes because there's been more times than not that when I open up that portfolio and I start asking questions, there's been more times than not that individuals always go, "Oh my gosh, he has questions for us," which speaks volumes to the candidates that they've been talking to, because it shows that they're either not serious about the job, and really, I want to see them get stumped. So there's been at least 3 to 4 interviews to where they're stumped and they can't answer a question, or they'll go, "Oh wait, that's a really good question." So yeah, and it's not to do it on purpose, but it's generally a real question that I have, or real concern that I have about the position. But still, I think that's a really good aim. And please only apply for stuff. Don't make the mistakes out of it. Please only apply for stuff that you genuinely, wholeheartedly want and you're willing to fight for. You got me? And that also takes time in identifying your jobs for your job search. I was talking to Mocha the other night, and I was telling him, I said, a lot of times with the time that students actually have for those 4 years, there should be no reason why a Dell State student should not leave here after doing internships and preparing themselves professionally, walking across the stage and not having 3 to 4 options. And I say that because these companies and the government are so hungry to get recent graduates, it's not even funny. They want the youngest of the youngest. 9 times out of 10, that means that you're going to be with their workforce longer. So, like I said, if you're doing everything that you should be doing and taking care of business, there should be no reason why you should not leave without 3 or 4 opportunities. And that's the beautiful part. You can always say, "Oh, this job is all about traveling. I don't really want that. This job pays the most, but it's in the middle of nowhere. I might could do it because my mom's not too far in Michigan. This job is, one that's dealing mostly with my strengths and weaknesses. I mean, my strengths instead of my weaknesses. This job is going to actually be the inlet to the ladder that's going to get me to where I want to be." So you want to have those options and not just one option that you're just pigeonholed into. All right, so let me try to put the survey in, because sometimes
I have a
it's,
question.
yes, ma'am.
Is there any questions you shouldn't ask or word phrases you shouldn't say during the interview?
Well, I would never start to bargain. I would never start to ask and tell about things that you're not comfortable doing, even on an internship. I would never say I'm not going to do a task, because that might be one of the major tasks that you need to get into that agency. Like, let's talk about the government. Like, you want to be a food inspector, right?
Yes.
Hopefully for the government, that's some good job security. So if you are there and you all of a sudden say, "Ah, I don't feel like wearing these hair nets and this protective stuff because it messes up my hair," they're gonna look at you like you crazy. So you want to make sure that you are keeping things that might hinder you from wanting to take on the opportunity, and or also making sure that you never talk bad about where you're currently at. You never, ever, ever talk bad about your employer, your previous employer. You, even if your situation is horrible, you make it sound golden, and you make whatever you're doing and those transferable skills that you can find in what you're doing work and transform into that job description of where you're going.
Okay.
So that's one huge thing. Whether you have to fake it or not, I think Rihanna said, fake it till you make it. Like, you're gonna have to fake it. Sometimes you're gonna come into a room and be the first person there, and you're gonna see somebody that you would never in your world, you would never talk to. Like, either they're not funny, either they're dry. No, that's why everybody first starts talking about the weather. You know what I'm saying? If you ever notice that, it's an inlet to then try to get to know that person. One mistake that I definitely made, and I don't know if it cost me a job or not, and I don't care, but the most rigorous the most rigorous interview I ever went through was with Iowa State University, and they flew me out there, what have you, and I wasn't expecting it to be that long, but I think I went through 5 rounds in a day, an hour each panel. And so the lady had come in to check on me, and I was going through. I think it was like the third one, and I was like, "Woo!" I was like, "Wow!" But then afterwards, I thought about. It, I said, "Wow, that can also convey that I might not be strong enough for the job." Right? She doesn't know me. She might be an ongoing colleague, but I also believe that everything happens for a reason, right? And so I would rather be where I'm at than to push through and be somewhere that I would hate to be at.
Okay.
You got me? So yeah, so there are different things. And also if I were you, I would just Google that question as well, because there's definitely got to be more than that. I'm just scrambling to try to get
Okay.
this survey link real
All right.
quick.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Oh, that's not it. Session wrap up. Where is it? All right. Paste. All right. Everybody got the survey link in the chat? Yes, I'm assuming. Okay. All right. Well, it has been a pleasure. I hope everybody gained some knowledge about interviewing skills. And if you guys need me for anything, of course, you know how to contact me. I am here in my office today. So I will talk with you soon.